Hi, I'm Karen Rice and welcome to this little tutorial, my sketchbook series of a cosmos field, and it's a follow-up to my tonal painting that I published on Friday, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. This is my little sketch here I did with my HB pencil, and details about all my materials will be in the description below. If you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to ask me. What I'm doing here is I'm using a size 6 round brush and I'm wetting the sky area. I've mixed up some cobalt blue and I'm going to paint the sky wet in wet, just dropping in the colour and leaving gaps for the white fluffy clouds. Take your time when you're doing this and enjoy it. I've painted a creamier colour now just at the top there to give a little bit more tonal value to the top of the sky. I'm painting that damp into wet, and I'm lifting out now some clouds with my little bit of kitchen towel, and it's a really fun thing to do to lift out some clouds. I love my little watercolour box here. It's just a tiny little enamel box which I bought from Cass Art in London. I think De La Rowney do a similar one, and I'll have details about that in the description below. But it's got 24 colours and they're quite moist, and they're quarter pans. They're really cute and great for taking away and sketching on holiday, and it's almost like the size of a mobile phone. You can just slip it into your pocket. It's brilliant. So what I'm doing here is I've wet the grass area carefully around these flowers, and I'm dropping in some light greens, wet into wet, using this size 6 brush. So sort of yellow on its own, then some light green. And the great thing about this, I'm being a bit naughty really, I'm actually using ready-made green. I actually don't mind using ready-made greens, but I do like to mix them with other colours because sometimes they can be a little bit garish. So I'm just working down in the foreground here, getting all these limey greens on. So all your light colours first, wet in wet in this background grasses. And I'm trying to be very careful and not touch the flowers. I'm putting some quite creamy darker green paint on here, using some indigo and green and a little bit of brown as well. Whatever I'm sort of with, sometimes when you've got a little sketch, a little watercolour box like this, you can just dib and dab different colours and try to be free with it. It's such good fun. I'm just dropping in now colours, damp into wet, just here and there to create lots of texture behind these beautiful cosmos flowers, and still using the size 6 brush. It's got such a lovely point. It's allowing me to get little bits of details as well. One of the things you've noticed here, I haven't actually used any masking fluid. I've decided not to, and I'm actually painting around the flowers. So this colour is quite a dark green. It's indigo, it's a bit of burnt sienna and green. And what I'm doing now is just sprinkling some sea salt onto this damp paint and using my plastic card, the sharp pointy bit of that, just to scratch out some grasses, and I'm going to let that dry so the salt can create its lovely magical textures. I'm just painting the background hills now, still using the size 6 brush, and I'm using a little bit of cobalt blue, tiny touch of the green, and it's really watered down because if you look in the reference photograph, that mountain there is the most distance. I want to make it a nice pale colour, cool in tone. I've just added a little bit of light red. It's more like a terracotta colour, but you could use a touch of pink. I'm just warming up that colour slightly, still keeping the tonal value quite light, and I'm using this size 6 brush to continue over on the right hand side. I've just slightly darkened the colours because if you notice those mountains are getting nearer to us and they're a little bit stronger in tone, so you just add a little bit more paint. Just be careful when you're painting around the cosmos. Take your time. Remember, we're not using masking fluid, and I get that question a lot. What do I do if I don't have masking fluid? Well, this is exactly what you do. You paint around your objects. You just got to make sure that you sort of work quickly, and in this instance, because I'm working quite small, I've got more time. So if you're starting out in watercolour, you might find this a lot easier, and also you can fit it into your day. You have time to paint it. It shouldn't take you too long. You can just have a little play. So I'm just continuing on the right hand side here. I mean, what you can use here, if you wanted to, you could use neutral tin or Payne's grey to create these colours. Whatever you fancy, just free up and have some fun. I've got a very sort of creamy milky colour to the right here. I've added a touch of pink, touch of grey, and working wet in wet, damp into wet, and damp into damp. Just having lots of fun with this, just careful round that cosmos flower there. and I've just added a little bit of green to that colour. And if you look at the reference photograph, there is some quite dark trees there on that sort of riverbank. So I'm painting quite creamy paint now just on the water's edge, so that you really get that lovely dark against light with the water. For longer videos with more voiceovers and drawing templates, why not think about joining my Patreon membership? Just click that little link in the top right hand corner, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. My painting has dried off and I have just brushed off all of the salt with my kitchen towel. I've decided to paint these cosmos flowers pink. I really thought it'd brighten everything up. I mean, you can keep them white if you like, or paint them whatever colour you fancy, but I'm going for permanent rose. I love this colour. It's a really cool pink, and I'm painting this wet on dry with my size 6 brush, just sort of putting little bits of paint on here and there and then diluting with water. As you can see me there, I've just brushed off a little bit of the water on the tissue to control how wet my brush is. You don't want great big puddles here, because this is a very small little sketch pad, and you want to be able to maintain that control. So I've got light areas and slightly mid-tone areas with these cosmos flowers. So just enjoy painting them and just choose whatever colour you like. Once you finish that first layer on the flowers, remember you can spatter to create some more little small flowers in the background, and I've made sure I've used my kitchen towel to mask out my sky area. I'm painting the dark green back of the flowers now using the size 2 brush. I'm working wet on dry. I'm using a grey colour. Don't worry about what grey it is. I'm using a mixture of lots of different colours here just to get this dark, and I'm using a little touch of green as well. I'm taking my time with painting my stems in and the backs of the flowers. After you finish off your backs of flowers and stems, I'm just putting some more grasses into the foreground using that dark green and that size 2 brush, wet on dry. Don't overdo this, you just want some little bits of detail, and I'm putting this actually on the top there where the water's edge is, just to get a little touch of smaller grasses to show a little bit of distance. Again, don't overdo it, just little touches here and there with your smaller brush, more not as dark a green either. I decided to make this foreground mountain a little bit darker, just to bring it forward more, so I brought the tone more, and these trees on the river edge there, I've just decided to make that a little bit stronger. I've dried off my painting and I'm using the size 2 brush just to paint in little details on the markings of the petals, and you can see that in the reference photograph. It's just a little bit of texture, and it should hopefully bring your flowers to life. And just using the pink, just slightly darker. As you can see there, I'm using this size 2 brush just to put some dark accents in on the greens at the back of the flowers, just a darker green, just to show that shadow down the left hand side of the stems as well. Because this brush holds so much paint, I've had to take a lot of excess paint on that kitchen towel there. Do what you feel's in control, putting a few more darker grasses. And what you can do, especially with something like a cadmium yellow, because it's so opaque, you can use those colours to sort of overpaint a dark area, and especially if you feel you've made it too dark. So it's a good little tip there. I'm just going to give the painting a little spatter right at the end with this lovely creamy yellow and my size 2 brush wet on dry, just to give it that little bit of texture and detail. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, this little sketchbook series, and I hope it's inspired you to have a go, especially if you've already painted the tonal version as well. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to see any more videos like this, why not subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get updates of my latest videos. Thanks so much for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.